Welcome back to our Developer Basics course. We set up the foundations for a contract management service, and we'll now create it. This will be achieved in 3 phases: creating a unit test, then the service classes, and declaring the service classes using a component. Like our previous video, we will be using test-driven deployment. So let's start with a new unit test method named isContractServiceAvailable. Next, we'll load the contract management service into it using the framework's getService method, passing it the service's class name. After placing it into a variable, we'll assert that it is not null. Then we'll call a Hello World method from this service and expect it to return a Hello World message. Of course, our test can't pass yet since the class and the method don't exist, so let's proceed to the next step, creating the service classes. Services are usually made of 2 classes, an interface and an implementation class. To create the interface, Eclipse has a handy quick fix tool we can use. We'll choose the interface option and place it into an appropriate source folder. In this case, the main Java source folder. We'll also add the missing method in the interface. Obviously, this interface needs to be implemented if we want our unit test to pass, so we'll create a new class and name it ContractServiceImpl to follow the Nuxeo naming convention. In its declaration, there are 2 important things to keep track of. It should implement the service interface, and it should extend the default component class. Adding the latter means that our class will gain the standard method used in a Nuxeo service. This is needed to handle its deployment and any extension point you might wish to add to it later. Eclipse will help us for the rest. We'll use its quick fix tool to add the unimplemented methods and complete them. Now when we save, then run the tests, we end up with a failure saying that the service can't be loaded. Let's try to analyze why. We can tell from the previous test that the Nuxeo runtime and the service component are loaded. We also created a service interface and an implementation class. So what's wrong? Well, if we take another look at our component, we notice that the classes we created are not mentioned in it. Declaring them is required if we want to be able to call the service, so that's what we need to do next. As a reminder, we placed the component into the main resources folder in an OSGI INF subfolder. Once opened, you can use autocomplete. Press Ctrl-space and choose the service tag. Then, in the interface property, add the whole interface class name and save. The implementation class needs to be declared too. We'll use the implementation tag for this one. Notice the comment. As we saw earlier, we need to provide a class name that extends default component. We'll fill it in and save. Let's run the tests one more time. They all pass. Awesome. We just finished building a service. We can sum up what we have now. 2 classes for the service, an interface and the implementation class extending default component. These classes are declared into a component. We'll get on to the reasons why and its benefits in a few seconds. Then the component is referenced into the bundle's manifest file so that Nuxeo runtime can find it at startup. That's something we did during the previous video. Now let's get back quickly to the benefits of using a service. There are several of them. First, a service can be called from any bundle using the framework's getService method. Second, and most importantly, the interface and implementation classes are referenced in a component. Another component in a separate bundle can easily override it. All it needs is a requirement on it to be able to override the service definition, its implementation, or even both. Note that default Nuxeo services use the same design pattern as well, so you can change their behavior without touching their code. Also note that although we went the manual way, the Nuxeo generator allows you to create a service in a few seconds. Using a command line prompt, switch to the project root directory and type yo Nuxeo service. You will be prompted for the service's interface class name and its package. Once created, refresh your project in Eclipse to use it. Now that our service is ready, we'll learn in our next video how to manipulate documents through the Nuxeo Platform API. Thanks for watching.